Happy Independent Bookstore Day. It is 8:30 in the morning, which I believe is an earlier start time than the past couple of years, so we are learning and growing every year. Though, as usual, in direct opposition to the learning and growing, I am throwing my socks on and trying to frantically gather my things to run out the door. So I am already ahead of last year because I have a coffee going that I'm gonna top off on the way out. I forgot one last year and I regretted it, even though we stopped at a Stan's? No, a Do Rights. And I think that there may be a donut stop on the agenda for this morning after our first store as well. As usual, Emily has made our itinerary for the full day. We are aiming to hit 15 stores, and as usual, we have a different route today. We are going up into Evanston for the first time since I want to say 2022-ish, which means that I have never taken you on the more northern route before, so we will see how that goes. And as usual, we have multiple new stores today, whether they are just new to us or a few that are new to the city, period. So I am so excited today, and I know my friends are so excited because I am actually the one so far that has contributed least, in the sense that Emily made the itinerary and Anne has accumulated a bunch of snacks because we, in the group chat, and again, I wasn't even the one that thought to raise this, Emily did, we noticed last year that we started to lag a little bit in the afternoon, like right before we hit 3 Avenues / Goblin Market, we had to take a quick 7-Eleven break. And so we said, or Emily said, what if we have some snacks on hand this year? And so Anne was like, what snacks does everybody want? And I said, I can literally think of no snacks in this moment except for Baby Bell cheese because I just saw it in the Jewel circular. So I do think we have cheese. In fact, I think we have 37 cheeses, which led to this great exchange already this morning in the group chat. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sure we will see the snacks at some point today, and I hope to take us along for a little bit more of the ride than I did last year. What tote bags am I bringing with me? Great question. We're going to bring our 2022 Indie Bookstore Day tote bag. I have 2021, which is my favorite Indie Bookstore Day tote bag that I have in retirement right now because the straps need reinforced, but I'm going to take my Love Sweet Arrow tote bag, even though we're not getting up there today because I love the size of it and we are still representing a local bookstore that way. And then because I also love the size of it, and I'm just going to try and be very gentle, I'm also going to take my Tokyo National Museum tote bag, which served me the entire time we were in Tokyo, so I know that it will serve me today. I'm debating throwing another bag, maybe a book bag in as well. I will have my camera with me ideally. Also, I'm bringing a couple drinks for the road because apparently we're going to have a cooler, and Emily said, I'm bringing a pop if anyone wants to bring a pop. So I looked to see what I have around the house, and I have this zero sugar cherry Pepsi and I have a mango bubbly. So I'm gonna bring these with me for the road as well as just my water bottle. And that, in addition, I think to my coffee, should be plenty. And hopefully that will set us up for a very successful Independent Bookstore Day. I am so excited. And with that, let's get going. This is our snacky situation. We've got 37 Baby Bells. 36.
Costco doesn't do odd numbers.
And then some Jingle Jangle.
There's a bag in the back too.
Oh, and there's more in the back. We're off to a great start. We're off to a great start to the day. We found parking immediately, which is not normal, and everybody's got a tote bag crossing the street, so everyone's on the same page. Anne is acquiring her tote bag right now, and I should do the same. Emily and her Toys list got a signed copy. So first Independent Bookstore Day plot twist is that this store, well, first I picked up a copy of The Raven Scholar because I was warned about it's over like 700 pages, but This was one of the stores I got Emily a gift card for, which was supposed to be for $10 as a kind of symbolic gesture. And how much did they say? They said $100, which I check my bank app pretty obsessively, and I really feel I would have noticed if I accidentally spent $100.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so we're debating, we're gonna do some digging because we don't want them to eat $100 either. So we'll figure it out. But for now, we've got more stores to hit. So let's go. Are we getting donuts?
Yes.
First donuts. Okay, so we are running ahead of schedule. There's like a weed whacker. Nope, it's a bike. We're running ahead of schedule by like 20 minutes, which means the next doors don't open for like another 20 minutes. But in another repeat offense, I lost my passport for a brief moment at 3 Avenues for the second time, not in a row, but the second time. But Emily and I both grabbed a copy of the new Just Kid. I think I have a reward now at 3 Avenues for next time we come, which is great. I'm gonna try not to say the word hoppin' today because I think I used my allotment of ever saying the word hoppin' 2 years ago. I think it's all gone now. So it's very busy already, lots of people out and about, and I'm sure the last chapter at Roscoe Books will be very busy once we head over there. So I guess we'll start making our way that way.
We have our blind date with the book. It's enemies to lovers, forced proximity, slow burn, and funny. All my favorite things. And it is Dear Enemy by Kristen Callahan.
Ooh, I don't know that
She
one.
was the last person she'd ever fall for.
Ooh, okay, you're gonna have to give us a book report.
Yeah, no, I sure will.
And what did we recommend for you?
You recommended Adriana Herrera, so I got a Caribbean heiress in Paris.
Dang straight.
Also, I recommended Cat Sebastian, didn't get her, maybe next time.
Okay, so we're 2 more stops down. We stopped in the last chapter where I did get a new historical romance, and then we popped over to Roscoe Books, which was absolutely packed because I think they both opened around the same time, and there are a lot of people on this crawl. So I did not get a book at Roscoe. Both Emily and Anne did. We are on our way to the bookseller and finding some parking currently, maybe actively parking right now, for all I know. But we are trying to work around the Lincoln Square construction. Okay, so I almost lost my passport again. So we have come to a consensus about what book I have to keep it in. Because we're only on store 6, but also we're already on store 6. So we're doing great. Yay! And that was our first new bookstore of the day. Jarvis Books, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yay! myself in the back seat and my first post-lunch check-in because I got a little sleepy after lunch. I'm not gonna lie to you. And we drove back from Evanston, so it was like a nice 30 minutes of me just being in the back, nodding along. But we've been to 3 stores since then, or 2 stores? 3.
If look at the beginning of December.
Yeah.
8.
We're on 11 now. Okay, so we went to the one that was, there was one before Lincoln Park. Lilliput.
Slant of Light involved.
Yes, okay. There was the one in Lincoln Park, Lilliput. There was the one in Old Town, which must have been Slant of Light. It had the dog. And we just went to Volumes, which we know and love. And that was stop 11 for us. It seemed to be a popular stop 11, which we were discussing because a lot of us started at the same time, presumably. I waited in line for the bathroom, so thank you to the Volumes bathroom. And we are on our way to Semicolon, which I'm very excited about. I can't remember if we did Semicolon last year. I don't think we didn't. We had it on the list, but I think they were under construction or something was happening that we had to adjust mid, because they've always been on our itinerary, but we weren't able to go last year. Okay, so this is exciting. Hopefully I'm getting my second wind here. That's why the snack cooler exists, even though I have this leftover chicken katsu, because we went to 10Q, which I was very excited about because my friend Mandy talks about it all the time and lives in Evanston and highly recommends it as well. She doesn't mention it to me quite as much as Mandy does though, so maybe she could work on that, I guess. But yeah, I'm up to I think 6 books. I've actually I think been the slowest this year, which is different for me. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess we'll have to find out, but yeah, I will see you on the other side. So we just got done at Semicolon, where we had to adjust our route because the street was closed for a festival or something. And we were like, that's weird. It's not Street Fest season yet. And then as we were walking up on it, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if that was for Semicolon? And then it was. It was so much fun. They always have the best vibes over there, so I am not surprised, but I am tickled.
I got What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, The Silverblood Promise by James Logan, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams, very excited, Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill, Witness for the Dead and the Grief of Stones by Catherine Addison, The Witch King and the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells, The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohar, Motar, always, Murder at the Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd, and The City in the City by China Mieville.
Solid haul.
Yep.
Clap, clap.
Hooray. Here we are at the end of another successful indie bookstore day, and so I got Forging Silver into Stars by Bridget Kemmerer. Also by Bridget Kemmerer, Defy the Night. If I Have to Be Haunted by Miranda Sun, which is, it's signed. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. When Among Crows by local author Veronica Roth. Master of Death by Olivia Blake. Malort, The Redemption of a Revered and Reviled Spirit by Josh Noel, also signed. Dolls of Our Lives by Mary Mahoney and Allison Horrocks, about American Girl dolls. The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. The Library of Lost Dollhouses by Elise Hooper.
The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And finally, A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera.
Yay! Amazing.
Amazing!
All right, friends, I am pooped, but more importantly, we did it. 15 independent bookstores in Chicagoland visited in one day for 15% off all participating stores for the next year until next Indie Bookstore Day. We had a blast. We are tired yet again. We did not go out for our celebratory dinner. Today it was going to be wine at a bonus bookstore, and we decided that that was not going to happen. In fact, Exile in Bookville, which is where we ended, which was a full circle moment, as I mentioned before, because that's the store that we missed by one, or that was the one store we missed in 2019. They were doing Malort cocktails for purchases over $30, presumably partly because they were selling the Malort book, which my friend grabbed a copy of and spent over $30, and so technically qualified, and none of us wanted the cocktail because we knew it would knock us on our patooties. So I will recap more in depth tomorrow or in the near future for me, and you won't even notice. However, we did our 15. This is what it looks like for now. I will fill this out more because I mostly just jotted down the names in the your route section of the stores. I was worried I'd forget. And we definitely saw 5 dogs today, so I will get that up today. We're already planning for next year. We did see a group on the route that were wearing t-shirts that they made, and we were very jealous of that. So Emily said, I'm already thinking about t-shirts for next year. So I want the record to show that my friends take this just as seriously, perhaps more seriously than me. But let's do a quick kind of scan through what I bought. I considered myself very reserved today because I did not buy something at every store. I did have a list of sorts, like a wish list of things I did want to get. I remembered late in the day that maybe I could pick up some stuff that I am really far back on the hold list at the library for, but not the new Emily Henry because I know I'll get around to that. I found some things, I picked up a couple new things or surprising things. Most of the stuff is stuff I'm aware of. Even being more reserved, I still walked away with 11 books. I only paid for 10 of them. The one I got bonus was at Exile in Bookville, which was very generous because I only bought a paperback there, but they gave me this copy of 2021's The Gold's Persimmon by Lindsay Merbaum, which looks to be pretty speculative, so I am intrigued by this. I will definitely have to give this a read. So going down quickly here, I grabbed a copy of The Devil in Her Bed by Kerrigan Brine at the last chapter. I found at Open Books a copy of Dear America, Voyage on the Great Titanic, which if you were a millennial, you will know because both Anne and Emily, when I showed them this, were properly awed, especially for $4. And not just this book, which was a seminal part of many a millennial's Titanic obsession, but look at how good a condition that's in. And I've opened it a bunch since, but like, you see how stiff that spine still is. Maybe you can't tell how little or how much resistance there is there, but this is an excellent condition, and it was $4. I am in awe. I am very excited about that. I have been trying to kind of scan, especially like the middle grade and young adult sections at bookstores that have used books recently to kind of try and pick up and replace some childhood favorites that maybe I have mistakenly let go of over the years or that are sentimental and I never had in my personal collection. I was tempted by some original covers of the Ugly series. They only had pretties in paperback though, and I also don't really know if I need that in my collection, but if I regret that choice, I know where to find them. At Volumes Book Cafe, I grabbed They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us by Hanif Abdurraqib because shamefully, I still have not read this one. A Little Devil in America was one of my favorite books of the year. a couple of years ago now, and I am still kind of marveling at the way that Abdurraqib wove his essays in that collection. I recommended it to my book club. We read it for book club, the book club that Emily and Anne are also in, and I was chatting with the owner of the volumes as she was checking me out about this collection, and we were both kind of fangirling essentially about just the way that Abdurraqib can write an essay. I know this is considered to be one of his best works, or at least his most well-known work, and so I need to get on reading that. At Exile in Bookville, which was our last stop, I grabbed, on a whim, admittedly, a copy of The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden, which was my favorite book of last year, and I don't own a copy, so I decided that this would be a good time to do that. It is a much different cover than the hardcover, if you remember from my review of that book, but I do think it makes sense conceptually and thematically in context. I grabbed a copy of The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, which is our next book club read for my main, by which I mean non-romance, my non-romance book club. And this was recommended by Emily. Also, I had this recommended, or this author recommended to me in a bar. I was reading a copy of Alexis Henderson's newest book at the bar last year, and a guy was chatting with me about what I was reading and recommending what he had just finished. And I remember hearing him talk to his buddies at the end of the bar about it as well. And he was trying to recommend it to me, but he couldn't remember the name of the author. And he went, it was 3 white guy names. And then he remembered it, had looked it up, and then it was Robert Jackson Bennett, and we had a good chuckle. And also I said, oh yeah, absolutely, my friend has also recommended that author to me, so I will definitely check it out. My one book of the day that I wanted to be sure to pick up, I successfully picked up, and that is, of course, Don't Sleep with the Dead by Nevo. This is a Tor.com sequel to The Chosen and the Beautiful, which Anne picked up today. I did not know how long this book was. I was just so excited for a sequel to one of my favorites, if not my favorite Nevo. And I was a little surprised. I know Tor.com does shorter novellas. I have one of their other novellas checked out from the library right now, but I did get a little sticker shock. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was $25 because we know the 99 cents is a lie. And I was happy to pay that because I love having Vo in my collection. But if I wasn't as familiar with Vo's work, I don't know that I would pick this up at the list price. I don't know why these aren't hardcover. I don't know, as I said to my friends earlier today, why they are 25 human dollars. I think that these should be a nice paperback with a French flap, deckled edge optional, based on the vibe you are trying to portray. But I don't know why those are hardcovers that are a little bit more cost prohibitive. If you understand the reasoning there, I'm just not as with it with that publisher, let me know, but very excited for that book. And I also need to read the other Tor.com title I have checked out from the library. Then a book I had kind of tangentially on my list because I still have not read James by Percival Everett, and I knew it was still in hardcover. And I kind of almost picked it up at a couple of the bookstores, and then I saw it also at Open Books, and like with my Dear America book, this is in pristine condition. Like, this may be in better condition than some of the new copies I browsed today. The spine is still very much intact, and I know that sounds silly, but like, I used to be a bookseller, right? Like, when the spine is loose, the odds are someone has at the very least perused it heavily. So this feels like a new book to me, and I paid half price. So very, very excited about that. My first grab of the day was The Raven Scholar by Antonio Hodgson because I was clued into the length of this book, and it is indeed a longer book from Orbit. It's a little shy of 600, or a little shy of 700, I think. 643 it looks like there. Thankfully, my mind is working a little slower at this point of the day because I could have just spoiled that for myself. But really interested in this one. There were a couple other fantasies that I kind of had my eye out tangentially for today that I didn't see that I was interested in picking up, but that's okay. I'll get them from the library. Those being The Gentleman and His Vowsmith, which came out this month and we talked about, and The Gods That Time Forgot, which I think also came out this month, so I guess that's not really helpful. And Murder at Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd I picked up at 3 Avenues, where I also lost my passport very briefly again. And while that has happened multiple years, it has indeed both times been at 3 Avenues after we started at Unabridged. So I don't know what that says. Like, maybe that's a cursed route. I don't know, but very excited for the new Jess Kidd. Interested to see what this is going to be, because the blurb read like this might be a little bit more cozy mystery, and it's in hardcover. So with Kidd, there's usually some kind of odd element, and I am very interested to see if there is an odd element, if she's going in a new direction, like what this book is. So I'm excited for it. I love Kidd. As you may or may not have seen at this point, Emily also picked up a copy of Jess Kidd. So that is exciting. And then another semi on the whim book, in the sense that I technically have this checked out from the library right now, but I have multiple books that are due back within a time frame because they have holds on them, and the odds of me getting them all read are slim. And I saw this out and about, and I'm very interested in it. Have been seeing great reviews from people I really trust, and that is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I am behind on my Stephen Graham Jones, who has been doing, by all accounts, some amazingly interesting work recently, and I have not read him since Mongrels, so I need to catch up. And I heard that there may or may not be vampire adjacent themes here. I was a little bummed because I did go through the whole stack to find the cleanest copy, you know, as you do. And, you know, it's fine. I need to let go, especially knowing how this apartment kind of weathers some of my books. However, we then went to Exile and Bookville, and they had some really clean copies that still had the sprayed edges, but also I don't need sprayed edges. So that is where we are sitting as of now. I'm sure I will have more thoughts about Indie Bookstore Day and more things to chat about as I kind of sit with it and we can like recap more in depth, but that is what I picked up today. Hey, I am conscious again. What do you say we do a kind of overarching thoughts from Independent Bookstore Day wrap up? But I am still a little tuckered out. This has been a really busy month for me. I started with one of my best friend's 40th birthday parties, followed by a bachelorette weekend. Last weekend, my dad was in town and we went to see the Kinks musical at Chicago Shakespeare Theater, which is basically over a decade in the making because I grew up listening to the Kinks with my dad, and we are obviously never going to see a Kinks concert together, though we have seen the Stones now twice together. And when I graduated college in 2013 with a theater degree, there was a Kinks musical in development on the West End, and I assumed that that would transfer because generally things like that do transfer, and it never did. Now, in retrospect, it is a biographical jukebox musical, and people either really love those generally or don't in terms of broad audiences, and it's interesting. These are more kind of theater thoughts in the moment, but for a market in terms of jukebox musicals that feels like it is targeting my generation now with programming and development, the Kinks are a little older than that. I will be interested to see if this production makes its way to Broadway at any point, just because Chicago Shakespeare has been transferring a lot of productions or being used as a Broadway tryout house, but I don't know. I'm not as deep into those conversations at this point, but I do know that the musical was an absolute blast. I had a great time with my dad, even if they didn't play low budget, which makes sense based on the timeline of the musical, and it worked wonderfully in the space. I splurged for floor tickets, I say, because as a theater person who is used to buying the cheapest ticket I can, I'm usually a little higher up or am filling in wherever based on last minute ticket deals, but I really enjoyed the seats that I got. We were like at the end of the thrust. The production is closed now, so I guess this doesn't really help anybody, but they were excellent seats and I really enjoyed the way that that space is designed. Next day was Easter. My mom came up, we had brunch. This weekend was Independent Bookstore Day, and next weekend my little brother is getting married. So a very busy month to be sure, and busy is the theme even within Independent Bookstore Day. Now, I have been doing this since 2019 and it has always been a really popular busy day, obviously. And we've been kind of exponentially growing since 2022 post lockdowns. And I was very interested in what that was going to look like this year, if we would keep growing in terms of participation. We absolutely, I would argue, I don't even think it's an argument, are growing in terms of store participation, but growth is not exponential forever. So I was just very interested in what the day was going to look like. And anecdotally, it seems to me to have continued its exponential rise. So I'll be very interested to see what next year it looks like as well. Personally, I was all day kind of trying to find the balance between living in the moment and capturing the moment. And that's a balance I've been trying to find for years, obviously. And if given the choice, I am always going to choose to live in the moment as much as possible versus capture it, even if I might regret that later in terms of looking back at footage or seeing other people capturing their days in ways that are really exciting and being a little jealous of that, I'm not gonna lie. But also, all of the stores were absolutely packed as part of that exponential growth. I joke about not using the word hoppin' because I said it so much in 2023, but I think it's far exceeded that at this point. We were lined up for the opening of Unabridged. I saw a lot of indie bookstores post their kind of opening crowd outside, and it seems like that was happening across the board. I really appreciate the passport adjustments that have stayed this year from last year to help accommodate that, because I think Goblin Market, I saw a post that said they had just shy of 2,000 people in and out of the store over the course of the day, which is mind-boggling. And I don't think I read in the post if they had kind of the count of their average Saturday, but obviously that is significantly more, especially if they are notating it. So that is great to see. Speaking of Goblin Market, which we actually didn't stop in this year, we did stop there last year and they were a lot of fun, especially if you like comics and like board games as well. They've got a great kind of amalgamation of that, and they are close to 3 Avenues, and I saw a lot of participation between them and the neighborhood. In terms of 3 Avenues, I saw advertising all week that they were doing deals for customers, or even maybe the first customers in the store at Indie Bookstore Day, where they were giving away $5 gift cards to local coffee shops. And then I think Beer Miscuous had a thing going on where if you went to Goblin Market and 3 Avenues and either provided a proof of purchase from both stores or had stamps from both stores on your passport, you got a discount at Beer Miscuous. And it's just heartwarming, right? It was really lovely to see this community support and this building of community through events like this, not just in terms of reader community, but in terms of the neighborhoods and the city at large. And as usual, while this is a hugely popular event, even online, which I will come back to, there are still people going about their normal days and are kind of shocked by stumbling upon the event. I overheard chatter in a couple of stores of like, oh, what's going on today? A lady stopped us, me and my group, before we went to Jarvis and asked us what was going on because she'd never seen it that busy, which is understandable because, like I said, these stores were packed, and Jarvis is a really fun new space. I definitely want to go back and check it out when things are a little calmer, but it is a smaller space. I definitely know that there's used books in there. There may be some new mixed in, but I didn't have as much room to browse as I ideally hoped. I did squat down at one point to try and browse a lower shelf, and someone came like barreling past me and almost knocked me over, so I decided that that might not be the best use of space in that moment. But one of the things I love about Independent Bookstore Day is just the joyful atmosphere, the community that is built, whether you are engaging with your friends or other groups that you stumble upon multiple times throughout the day, or people in line that you strike up a conversation with. I struck up a conversation with a woman in line at the bookseller and was kind of feeling out how she planned her day because the bookseller was her first stop. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to see so much robust support for independent bookstores across the city, and to see this event grow so exponentially, as I have reiterated a couple of times. And I'm going to blame the fact that my brain is still a little overwhelmed from this month. I repeat things all the time, but there's just a lot of love there, and there's a lot of pride, I think, in supporting your local stores and a lot of joy in discovering new local stores. We went to 3 new stores this year and they were all delightful. And again, we only went to a fraction of all participating stores. And we talked a lot in the car about kind of the nature of the day because it was so packed. Like Roscoe Books, you couldn't even really move around in. That is a bookstore I love and I love browsing in because while it is a kind of tighter space than some of the other indies in the city, its curation is immaculate. And I'm not speaking ill of any other indies curation because a lot or most of the indies we went to on Indie Bookstore Day are our favorites. But I really am always kind of awed by the use of space in that store and the curation that they have. And me and my friends have talked about this multiple times. So it was kind of a bummer not to have the space to browse. And I felt kind of guilty about not buying a book, even though Emily and Anne both did. There were a couple of titles that maybe I should have ordered in that were kind of tangentially on my list or were maybes on my list that I didn't happen to see over the course of the day, but also I shall survive. And we were also talking about that in context of the profitability of the day, because ideally this should be a very, very profitable day for indie bookstores. And I think that anecdotally, the evidence seems to support that, yes. I mean, we know it is, but as it continues to grow in popularity and it becomes harder to shop, I'm less likely to walk out with stacks of books from one bookstore, though that may also just be growing self-control and rising book prices. However, we were talking about just the exposure the day offers, and getting paid in exposure as an artist is kind of a triggering statement, but this idea that anecdotally, we have discovered multiple bookstores over the course of the years through the crawl, and they have become favorites and stores that we shop at regularly. For me personally, I discovered both Unabridged and Roscoe Books over the course of the crawl, and I shop both of those stores very regularly. I know Three Avenues as well, which was a new store 2 years ago now. And I know that's not just me because Emily pre-ordered a book in there that we picked up on the way to Wicked earlier this year or last year. And so it's absolutely a way to support in that way or to discover so that we know what is even available to us. And that is wonderful as well. Like for instance, we stopped into a new bookstore in Old Town, and I never would have known that there was a new bookstore in Old Town, probably without Independent Bookstore Day, because I don't spend a lot of time over there. I've been thinking a lot about the math of this discount over the last few years as the crawl has grown, because it is a significant discount. Now, some of these stores offer this discount already, like spoiler alert, if you are signed up at the bookseller, which you should be based on this, you get 10% off year-round anyway. And either way, even if you do have or have completed the book crawl, and you're like, well, I already get the 10% off with the crawl, they also count rewards and you can earn a $25 off purchase credit. I don't want to think about the math of how much you spend to earn that because I think it's $250. That being said, even if it's not your main bookstore, like Three Avenues today, I don't have a recollection of spending tons and tons of money there, but they said I have a credit after checkout yesterday. So what a fun surprise, and I will be back to spend that credit. Speaking of which, I don't think we ever tied up the loose end of the Unabridged gift card mystery. We did look it up, or I looked it up in my credit card transactions, and it was a $10 gift card, or at least it was supposed to be. So Emily was already like, I'm not going to spend any more of that gift card, and she's got some cookbooks she wants to order in, and she's going to make sure to order it from them because they're one of our favorite stores anyway. Not that she wouldn't if they weren't one of our favorite stores, but what an exciting start to the day, right? But there was just an air of frivolity and also kind of frenzy because it was so crowded. And with that as well, there was, I would argue, anecdotally, or it felt like there was more chatter online than ever about Independent Bookstore Day. It's always been something that's celebrated online and that people are posting about, but I felt like that there was much more of a sense of community around it this year. And I don't think it was all the targeted competition sales making people angry, though I definitely think that that helped people or fueled some people in their purchasing decisions on Independent Bookstore Day as well. which is great. I know that it helped fuel me, but we went to so many wonderful bookstores yesterday, and I wish I had more kind of representative footage to show you of all of the stores, but it was just crowded in the best kind of way, and I was busy shopping and trying not to run into anyone or be run into. So priorities. So that is how our independent bookstore day went. Another success, another year in the books, another year where we're walking away with ideas for next year, but it was just such a joy and so wonderful to celebrate the day with my friends, have fun, celebrate bookstores, and get to share that communally with so many other readers running around over the course of the day, hitting their stores, buying books, talking about books, and celebrating bookstores and community. So I would love to hear how you spent your independent bookstore day, whether you were in Chicago and participating in the crawl and what your route was, or if you were somewhere else and were able to support other communities. I know other communities had book crawls or just stores having events or just going in and shopping your local indie and celebrating them that way. What did you get up to? What did you grab? What are you excited about? Do you have any fun stories from the day? Let's continue the community around Independent Bookstore Day and keep the party going below if you feel so led. But thank you for hanging out with me and going on my day with me. I will be back to more regular posting, knock on wood, after this wedding, and we can get back into the groove of talking about books more actively because it is one of my absolute joys. So thank you for being here. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. Read something good. And yeah, bye.